Hello YouTube. I have studied the paranormal phenomena of Southern Africa for many years and had a chance to spend some time in the region many years ago. I love Southern Africa, and my interest had begun back in the Soviet Union when I was a young person and read books of Ivan Yefremov and some other information. There is a lot to study and see and find out in Southern Africa. For example, Namibia is one of the most interesting places to me. But something unusual is going on right now in the oceans of our planet, and it also touches on the waters next to Southern Africa. For example, the humpback whales, who are known to be the loners of the sea, they tend to migrate, feed, and mate in groups. But they also are known to spend much of their existence by themselves, or even in small groups. From what I've read, short-lived groups, up to 7 individuals in such a group. However, because of something that's going on in our oceans, the scientists have reported dozens of instances of humpback supergroups that actually cannot be explained. Never before scenes of groups of from 20 to 200 whales or so forth appeared off the southwest coast of South Africa, and it took place not that long ago, in the recent years. Scientists who have been consulted say that this has never happened before, and there were a number of studies, and one of them mentions 22 instances of humpback supergroups who were seen during the research cruises in the last 6 years. Also, there had been observations from the aircraft that flies over South Africa, especially the southwestern Cape region. There was a report in the New Scientist about it, a magazine, and it's very interesting. And it mentioned that the researchers are calling this behavior quite novel and intense. And they say it's a sign of the mysterious resurgence of the humpbacks in recent years. And this phenomena of the supergroups, feeding phenomena, it's something that is a recent behavior. But of course they don't know why. Because they've not seen such dense feeding aggregations during the southern hemisphere humpback whale migrations. The usual reported group was about 10 to 20 or less. It's not even that the size of the humpback whales of the groups is unusual. It's a location that didn't make sense to the scientists too. Apparently, by gathering near South Africa in summer, the humpbacks were choosing to bolster their numbers thousands of kilometers away from their usual feeding grounds. And that's interesting. Listen to this. In the southern polar regions of Antarctica. And why such a change in behavior, the scientists cannot explain. During the summer months, southern hemisphere humpbacks, they would congregate in Antarctic waters to feed on massive amounts of krill and fish every day, because they needed to basically to build up fat for the coming winter. And once they would get filled up, they would migrate north to the nursery grounds in the subtropical and tropical coastal waters, and they would do it for the winter. But everything is messed up now. It's not being done. And the researchers don't know how to explain this behavior as yet. I'm sure they're collecting evidence and so forth. but they are concerned. What is the shifting conditions of the world oceans? Or is it due to the increasing humpback numbers? They're not sure. We've heard a lot about the decline of the species, but not for southern hemisphere humpbacks, because what's happening is actually the population grows up, just like the Australia's humpback population. After the whaling ended along the east coast of Australia in the 1960s. So we're not sure what's going on, but to me what's interesting is the location again and the waters of the Southwest Africa, especially Namibia. I find the whole country to be a hidden phenomenon, terminal area, if I can say that, because there is so much to explore when you go there, and more people should. You can find the highest sand dunes in the world. You can descend to the floor of the deepest canyon in Africa. You can find evidence of the ancient past of Africa, some of the richest rock art sites, and the rock paintings that you would find are incredible. And those who are into the ancient aliens hypothesis would find quite a lot in Namibia to look at. Namibia has one of the oldest and driest deserts in the world, and very barren, very inhospitable, very dangerous coastlines. The Namib Desert, considered the oldest desert in the world, it contains a great array of plant and animal life, and the remarkable flora and fauna have adapted in so many various ways to survive in the harsh conditions. And it also depends on the fine mist that sweeps in from Atlantic Ocean. But there is much more in the waters of Namibia. And my research followed a hypothesis presented by Ivan Yefremov in one of his wonderful books of the demise of the Alexander the Great fleet of the coast of what is called today Namibia. This is very interesting, and someday I'll share more, because while Ivan Yefremov was the guiding star, I actually talked to some people back in southern Africa many years ago, and I found out a few other things about Namibia's ancient past and discoveries, and who knows what lies in the waters of Namibia. It's not a very safe place, but I'll share what I know later too. You need to know that the first European seafarers who reached Namibia shores were the Portuguese explorers, and they erected a stone cross at Cabo do Padrao. It's now known as the Cape Cross. That was in the 15th century. Diogo Chao, he led his small fleet of caravels down the West African coastline, and he reached what today is Namibia on his second journey in 1486. Once the cross was erected, Diogo disappears from the recorded history as far as we know. It is believed that he died on a mountain southeast of Cape Cross. Now, the cause of death and his whereabouts still remain a mystery. And the documents relating to his expedition are thought to have been lost in a fire. Now, his fleet did come home, but of course without him. There are other interesting stories, sometimes eerie stories, about the Portuguese in southern Africa's waters, about shipwrecks and some very unusual occurrences. But it wasn't until the middle of the 19th century that the explorers, prospectors, ivory hunters, and missionaries began the journey into the Namibia's interior. Beyond these visitors, Namibia was largely spared the attention of European powers. until the end of the 19th century, when it was colonized by Germany. And horrible massacres underscore the German control of Southwest Africa. Wars, expeditions, strange discoveries, and of course the diamonds. But this is something we can talk about later. What I do want to tell you today is there are thousands of barren patches of land that are several meters wide. They're known as fairy circles. And they're found across the Namib Desert. And the reason for their presence there is not known. There have been theories that included radioactive soil, UFOs, meteorites. There is also a myth about a dragon that lives beneath the earth and that his fiery breath burns the vegetation. Theories range from strange ones to speculative to very creative ones. Again, they include that there are areas of past termite activity, also areas where the poisonous euphorbia plants used to grow, that actually extraterrestrial visitations would cause those patches, or that it would be electromagnetic radiation. Some people believe this were the circles where fairies dance on moonlit nights. Well, in many areas, these so-called fairy circles, they mark the landscape in something like a polka dot display. And actually they're barren circular patches of sand surrounded by grass. And like I said, nobody knows about their origins. But what's even more interesting to me, among a variety of strange phenomena of Namibia, are the lakes. There are two lakes. There are bottomless lakes, Ojikoto and the sister lake Guinas. They're bottomless, and it's very dangerous to swim into them. There are strong undercurrents, and the two lakes are said to be linked by subterranean passages. And despite the so-called evidence to the contrary, people still believe that the two sinkholes are enigmatic phenomena that cannot be accounted for scientifically. And they believe it today just as they did years ago, about when the two explorers first encountered them. And after those explorers, they stripped, they dived in, they were swimming around and climbed out unharmed. The onlooking local people, the Wambos and the Bushmen, still believed that no living creature that entered the water ever came out alive again. Well, maybe they were more educated in this sense than those who came from the outside to explore the lakes. Because I've conducted my research of the strange underwater creatures of the Central Asian and Russian lakes, and there was a report of a very similar creature in description that was found in one of those lakes. And I will tell you more about it as I describe Namibia. It's not a giant country. I believe it's 34th in size after one South American country, but it's still a large land with very different climates, and it's not very much populated. But from my research, I believe that there is much to discover under the sands of the desert and also in the waters of Namibia. But the lakes of Namibia contain secrets. Thank you.